couldn't get any more of that out. I sat there and shook forever. It's still full. And good measure. Yeah. The recovery.
And we're now joined by the race winner of tonight's NASCAR Cup Series race here at Watkins Glen International, Chris Buescher, driver of the number 17 RFK Racing Ford. If you have a question for Chris, please raise your hand. We will get a microphone to you. We will start with Dan and work our way around the room.
Thanks, Dan Gelson, AP. Chris, I mean, you had a couple close calls to get into the playoffs this year at least. How tough is it to think, sitting here thinking that maybe this could have been a win that could have gotten you into another round?
Yeah, I hadn't gone through that part of it. You know what, for missing the playoffs, it hurt. It definitely stung there, and to have the season we had and have that many close calls, near misses, certainly doesn't feel good, but I had no point until you just asked the question. Have we thought about what it would have meant until now? That's just good old-fashioned win right there. So in that sense, it's very special for me, for this team, to get this BuildSubmarines.com Mustang into victory lane on a road course. That's a big accomplishment for myself. We've been so good on these things. We've averaged out so good, much like our season. We've had a fantastic average throughout the year. We just we haven't been able to win a road course yet, and we finally got that done today. This race car was so good. Practice was really good, and I think lap averages, we were P1 on averages after the two practices, so we knew we were good after a couple of laps, and qualifying certainly was not very good. So had to pass a lot of cars, had to have some fantastic strategy. And if we're going to be blunt about it, not having to think about points at all on the playoff side of it or any cutoffs opened up more opportunities for us today to be able to go out there and get that win.
We'll go next to Dustin Albino and then Reed Spencer.
Dustin Albino, NASCAR.com. Chris, take me through the overtime restart and then the final lap.
Yeah, man, I sure did like it being 4 seconds out front and cruising to victory. That sure seemed a lot easier, but a little bit wild there at the end to have caution after caution was certainly frustrating. Of course, the two that we got away clean, we had cautions immediately up through the S's, right? So the third one there, everyone just drove into one a little bit deeper yet, knowing it was OT, and ended up just up the hill and lost the lead, and knew that was going to be a very tough pass to get SVG back, and we tailed them there for that last lap. Took the white and realized that we had gained a little bit, and went up through the S's, and I seen them just hanging on to it really loose, and I went to a point where I wasn't really comfortable at my entry marker into the bus stop, and I think he was still going. So I kind of had a feeling something big was getting ready to happen, and sure enough, he had that big slide there and went to try and go left, and he was still correcting and coming back, so went to try and cross over, and just good hard race there. He tried to cover it and had already gotten the fender in, and just was able to get clear of him off the carousel and run. You know what? Just run.
Were you surprised you were able to get back to him?
I knew he was the team had been telling me that he was very good in the bus stop on entry and through the center, but that we were very good turn one up to that point, and that we kind of just fell even otherwise. So I knew we were very good. I knew it was going to be a hard pass. The bus stop wasn't very much of a passing zone at all today, other than just some big restart moments, which is kind of what was predicted ahead of time. My head doesn't hurt near as much right now, though, so I'd certainly appreciate that side of it. But what it did is it made it really charge that entry, and ultimately led to the point where you could bottom out. If you had big moments, then it would really take off on you. So without that, and without putting that pressure on him up through the S's, it would have been a very difficult pass to make. But with that bobble there and having that opportunity to cross over through the bus stop, that was our one shot, and we took it. Thank you.
Go to Reed next, and then Holly and Jeff.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. Congratulations.
Thank you.
so much was made of the tires going into today. And looking at scoring, it didn't look like the fall off was as much as anticipated. Did you think they were a factor?
Yeah, I do. I would say that they were more of a factor earlier. The track did take a ton of rubber. These things marbled up a lot like old school days. And, you know, at times early on in the race, both the first stages had cautions at points where they really only ended up being about 15-lap runs, and we really needed to see it play out to 25 laps to really be a factor, I believe. But, man, we hit a point where we just started mowing them down. We didn't fire off great, but after 5 laps, we came alive, and then on the tail end of those runs from 10 to 15, we made up some fantastic time and could see people struggling where our car was just really planted still. So that was from tire degradation and what it did for us as we went through the race. And I guess it had to be the amount of rubber going in the racetrack. Team told me it was cooling off as we got in the evening as well, so I'm sure that made it less of a factor. And you know, if it would have been a more typical 65, 70-degree day here at the Glen, maybe it would have been less of a factor yet. But we came in here expecting big fall off. We seen a medium amount of fall off throughout the race that did trail off, but I think it did make a factor. All the cautions let them come back. When you let them cool off, even if they're worn, they seem to come back better with temperature versus purely wear. So I think all those cautions kind of tightened it back up and made new tires less advantageous there at the end.
Hi, Chris. Congratulations. Holly Kane with the NASCAR Wire Service. I wanted to ask you, maybe instead of cruising to a 4-second win, is there any extra satisfaction in getting this win, your first road course win, this way, going against SVG, one of the best, in such a tight duel on the final lap?
Yeah, I said it would be easier, not more satisfying, I guess, to your point, yes. It in a way, I could have done without some of that stress there at the end, and knowing how good that we played it and how that was going to work out for us. I'd love to win one that way too, but yeah, that one was ultimately it was a lot of fun because it worked out. If we'd have finished second on the day, I wouldn't have enjoyed that very much. So, you know, to be able to be in the hunt there at the end, you know, SVG has been such a phenomenal road course racer, or is a phenomenal road course racer, right? And knew when he got that spot on us on that last restart that it was going to be very tricky to get back by him, and you know, just wanted to make sure that we stayed in the hunt, that we drove the thing hard and kept pressure on him, and it made him at least realize we were still there, that it wasn't going to be a cruise away. So I think ultimately that was the ticket, right? Was just to make sure that you get other drivers in their mirror and looking up instead of looking forward, and you know, it's a lot of fun, just to good old-fashioned hard battle all the way to the end. There's been so many fantastic last 1 or 2 laps here at the Glen, and I certainly feel like going to go back and watch that one, and going to feel like it's going to add up right there with some of the old school Ambrose Keselowski battles, or you know, a handful of others through the year. It's going to be a good one.
Let's go to Jeff, Daniel, and then we'll come over here in the middle.
SVG said that part of the reason he was running so hard there and kind of like forced himself into a mistake, I guess, is because he had contact with you on that restart. So he felt like, all right, it's going to be fair game if you get back to him. But on the other hand, I feel like our perception of you is like you're not really going to rough somebody up for the win. You drive pretty cleanly. So can you settle it if you had gotten a chance? Because the contact you had was you were already there and he kind of came down. It didn't look like you like intentionally like, you know, bumped him up. So if he hadn't hit you there, or either way, like, were you going to initiate that contact? Is that what you were planning to do?
You know, if we could have gotten close enough, yeah, it was certainly in my mind that, you know, we'd had a couple of good restarts and been able to cover everything. And that last one was, everybody got a little more aggressive, right? And we see it time and time again. And, you know, I certainly didn't like losing the lead there, but I didn't think that it was dirty. It was very aggressive racing, right? And when it came down to it, and we were able to single file out and seen that, you know, he pulled away for half a lap there, and I kind of thought my chance was slim. And then when white flag came out, we were able to really pull up on him. And so, yeah, it was, I was going to keep the pressure on him, and if the opportunity arose, was definitely going to. We were going to push and shove a little bit. I'm not out here to flat out wreck somebody. He didn't do anything to me to deserve something like that. But we were gonna race hard for it and have a battle all the way to the finish. I guess ultimately it's if he's running that hard, then he knows where his mindset was at, and knows that if the roles were reversed, he probably wouldn't like being shoved up the hill like that. And if he's thinking I was going to return the favor, I think if the roles were reversed, that kind of means that he would be in the same mindset as well.
So he was right that he needed to run that hard to make sure he stayed far enough ahead of you.
If the right corner would have happened, that wasn't going to be the place. That was the bus stop was not a great passing zone and not a good place for it was actually where they were better than us pretty consistently there in those last 20, 30 laps. So, I really had been really good through the carousel. So I wanted to get through the bus stop clean. And like I said, I drove in hard, but I wasn't gonna go crazy. And he was still digging when I lifted, and he was 2 car lengths ahead. So just kind of clicked at that moment that was probably not going to stick through there, and it was going to open up an opportunity for us.
Thank you.
We'll go next to Daniel.
Daniel McFadden, FrenchStretch.com. So Chris, what was the thought that popped into your head when I guess they came over the radio and said caution when you're out there for 4.5 seconds?
Yeah, we had an in-car camera today, so you'll see it. That was disgust. That was pure disgust at that point. I'm not surprised by it because we passed the 21 as he had the left rear coming apart, and I seen the carcass hanging on for dear life through turn 6 when we went by him there. I don't call 10, it's 6 to me. So I had a bad feeling at that point. So it's not something that caught me way off guard, but it was frustrating because we had our team had done a good job with strategy. Had put ourselves in a good spot to have that massive cushion to the point where and the long run speed in our race car that we were really weren't gonna have a contender there all the way to the end. We were gonna be able to cruise across the line to a pretty easy victory ultimately if had that caution not come out. So yeah, disgusted by it, but ultimately probably not very surprised.
And the top 5 finishers today aren't playoff drivers. What does it mean for you when pretty much everyone's focus is on the 16 guys in the playoffs? What does it mean for you to be able to say, hey, I'm still here, and be able to, have a say in what happens today?
Yeah, it's our sport's not like others, right? We have this playoff format that starts, but nobody goes home. We bring the same 36, 38 cars to the racetrack every week. We race the same drivers and teams every week, no matter if there's a playoff going on or not. So our sport's not like others in that sense. So we're here to race to win, and we're going to play spoiler as much as we can in the next 7 or 8 weeks coming up as well. So it's big for us to get a win on the year. Been over a year without a win, and we've been so close so many times to start off the season at Phoenix and be runner-up there. We knew we had the speed. We carried it over through the off-season and just haven't been able to seal the deal. And we talked about it a lot with the team the last 2 weeks. Obviously, it's been a challenge to kind of take that reset. Nobody's head was hanging, but certainly difficult mindset to be in, knowing that we didn't put ourselves in a playoff spot, and in a year that we certainly felt like we could make a deep run into the playoffs had we been able to secure one of those victories earlier. So with that, we're gonna keep after it. Next week's my favorite racetrack, so excited to go to Bristol. Played spoiler there 2 years ago, so we can go do that one again. We got some other really good racetracks coming up as well, so excited about that. I'd say that today the fact that we weren't in a playoff spot, we didn't have we had a terrible week last week ultimately, but that didn't put us in some kind of desperate position on a playoff bubble that made us play it safe today either. That let us go out there and race 100% to win, and that's what our team did, and that's what we were able to accomplish. And I think the fact that many playoffs drivers weren't in the top 5, and I know y'all said a handful of them had issues, so that makes a dent in it too. But I think that just shows where, with the strategy of the race, we're able to take bigger chances and kind of ignore the stage finishes out of it.
Go next to Dave.
Dave Sully, Area Auto Racing News. With all of the beating and banging that was done to the whole race, how close did you come to being taken out during the race?
It was a pretty easy day for me, so I don't know how bad it was in other areas. The closest call I had was lap 1 coming out of the bus stop. There was kind of racing with a handful of cars. We qualified poorly, so we were in the thick of it. And the seas kind of parted, and there was a parked car sitting in the middle of the track. So that was by far my closest moment. Outside of that, we had some good hard racing, but at no point in the day did I feel like it was a day full of close calls or near misses for us. It was a strong day for us to have good execution and pretty clean racing ultimately. At least where we were at. I know obviously all those cautions came out at the end for a reason, but I haven't seen why. So for us, quite a nice day.
We'll go to Nathan next, and then Chris.
Nathan Solomon, Speed Sport. Chris, 5 of your 6 career victories have come in the last 2 years, and obviously this organization's grown so much in that time frame. But what about Chris Buescher, the race car driver, has changed in the last couple of years?
You know what? I've been underneath the RFK banner for half my life now. I've seen this organization through a lot of changes. I've seen it at its best. I've seen it at its worst, and been a part of it. Had a couple of years there loaned out, and you kind of watched it from the outside and seen the struggles. But it is in a better place now than I've ever seen it, and that goes back to what you would consider the heyday of it, when able to win 8 or 9 races across the organization, albeit that was with 4 teams and not 2, right? But you know what? For us to be in this spot, to consistently be in the hunt, to win races at this many different styles of racetrack, we finally got a road course win, which means a lot to me. The Darlington win for Brad was huge. Last season for us, a very unique array of racetracks we were able to get it done at. That matters. That shows how we are adapting to different styles of racetracks and how our organization has stepped up. So, for me, I have spent a lot of time in situations that would be underdog situations or just in an era where our team was not in its best place either. But none of that time was wasted. It was a learning experience. It's focusing on how do you get better. It's breaking the mindset of having a 18th place day and saying, man, that was great progress. It was not. You know what? That was 18th place. That was a terrible day. But it got to the point where it had been there for so long that you almost tried to find tiny victories in it. And you look back at it now and say that was a lot of learning experiences through the years, a lot of realizing that complacency may have struck you at different times, but you're not happy with that. And we've turned a massive corner at RFK. There's a host of reasons for that, for us to be in this spot now. And, obviously we're not in the playoffs on the 17th side, but the 6 for Brad to get that win at Darlington and to be in the playoffs now, that's big for us to have both our cars in the playoffs. Last season, we've found a massive increase in speed, and that's helped me as a driver really enjoy coming to the racetrack a lot more. Brings me back to the good old days of short track racing, where you love to be that hauler that rolled into a speedway, and the rest of the teams or drivers looked up and said, "Crap, we got to race them today." We're in that spot now to where we are a factor at a lot of these different styles of racetracks. It's more fun for me. It makes it more enjoyable. It makes me think back on the harder days and what was good about them, and certainly what was bad about them, and how do you fix some of that and get your mindset right to make sure we're battling to be happy with wins and disappointed with second, not not happy with a top 10.
And you mentioned the lows. I mean, was there one particular low or turning point that stood out to you?
No, there was a handful of really hard years, very well documented hard years. So, for that, it's definitely tricky. And you do your best to keep your head up, and through all that, we've come out in a much better place now. And whether that's everybody back at the Roush shop from that side, whether it's the Fenway group and their big investment into commitment, their big commitment to making us better, or if that's Brad Keselowski's fingerprints all over everything that we're doing now. There's a ton of factors that come into play, but ultimately the results are speaking for themselves. We're in probably the best place that I have seen in 15, 16 years.
Chris GetJones.com. Congratulations on the win. Speaking of going back to one of your favorite tracks, Bristol, next weekend, it was a chaotic race back there in March. What do you expect next weekend?
I did the tire test with our team. And so coming out of there, I would say that I would expect some similar characteristics. I don't feel like there's a lot that's going to massively change how that day plays out. We're starting to hit a little bit cooler weather. It's kind of a stretch. Humidity is still there everywhere in the South, but I would say that there's a very high possibility that it's going to be a high tire wear race, and you are going to have to play it differently. Don't doubt for 1 second that every team is aware of that, that everyone knows that they're going to be on high alert. We're going to be thinking about how to make tires last without giving up overall speed. How do you push that? The bigger thing from the test that seemed to help was the PJ1. Certainly seemed to put us in a little better spot. And, I guess I thought that was staying, but it sounds like it is not. We're going back to resin. So I think from that side of it, to me, that means it's going to be very similar to what we had last time. Maybe a little bit better just because teams are going to learn what they need or have learned from that last experience. But I would expect some chaos there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll go to Bob next.
Parker's Fox Sports. I don't know how well you know SVG, so I'm curious, when he came into victory lane to congratulate you, did you know he was coming in to congratulate you?
I figured so. I didn't feel like anything was dirty there at the end. Like we talked about, there was a little push and shoving on both sides, and ultimately there was he had a big error there into the bus stop, and we just took advantage of it, and really had to be aggressive to get to the hole. But I didn't feel like there was anything that was dirty about it. I didn't expect him coming over to be mad about anything. On that note, I think that's the one guy out here that's bigger than me. So if there's that moment where I feel like he is mad coming over, I better take note, right? On the flip side, I'm sure some others don't like seeing me. So it was. I appreciate him coming over and say a good race, because I did feel like it was a really good race. We got after each other hard, but ultimately there was nothing crazy in those last couple of laps. Just good hard racing.
Yeah, he's no Tyler Reddick.
No. You said it, not me. Would I have ducked? You know what? He was like 3 steps down, so I had the high ground. We'll say that.
Any final questions for Chris? All right, Chris, thanks so much, and congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all. We'll see y'all in Bristol.